Shira, you have a minimalist philosophy, and I think everyone pictures something different when they hear the word minimalism from like big empty houses, cold aesthetic, kind of like sometimes nothing. But help our listeners understand minimalism and how you implement it in your life and your clients' lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I know minimalism does freak people out. So I define minimalism as being radically intentional, not just with the things that you own, but with how you spend your time, your resources, and your energy. And in a nutshell, I like to say it's really about clarifying what's important to you and cutting the clutter and distraction that stands in the way. So for me in my life, that has meant deciding certain years I'm really leaning into writing a book and I'm going to take less clients. I'm going to take less on in my personal life in terms of social plans. I'm maybe going to order pizza instead of cooking a 3-course meal for my family. So it's really about getting that intention from the get go so that you can make better and more intentional decisions about how you're allocating your resources.
That makes a lot of sense because the intentionality helps to remove the emotion, I think,
Mhm.
from the process of everything, right? Whether it's from buying, it's like, well, is this thing I'm going to buy fit my focus or my aesthetic or what I like? Or is it more of an
Mhm.
impulse purchase? Or you mentioned work, like I'm going to just focus on writing my book versus kind of gathering other projects, which I'm very guilty of, working on a lot of things at one time and splitting attention. So it's kind of just removing some of the emotion and being more strategic when it comes to decision making.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I always like to think like as kids, we're told, what the limits and boundaries are for our lives. And as adults, it's really up to us to make those decisions. And it's very difficult to do if you don't have kind of a North Star. And so starting with that question of what is most important, what do I value the most, is really important for people.
What happens when someone values stuff or like what if I really like stuff or everyone spends their money differently, like some people like to
Mhm.
spend money on experiences, other people like to spend money on stuff, on walk into someone's closet, you see they like clothes. So what
Yeah.
happens if someone just says, well, I like stuff, cute stuff?
Right. Well, that's a really good question. I've never been asked that question. Um, I think the deal is that when you really ask somebody, what do you care about most? And I've been doing this for 15 years, helping people, declutter their homes and lives. Nobody has ever said to me, what I care about most in the world is lipstick, right? Or like, what I care about most is handbags. All of those things I think add to our lives, can enhance our lives. I certainly love fashion and style and interior design. But I think when we think about our core values, they tend to fall into the buckets of, work, fulfillment, meaning, purpose, relationships, building something that expresses who we are and what we care about. It rarely is material objects. So I think, maybe a better question is like, what are your deepest values? Or what are the things you want to prioritize in this season of your life? And I think if somebody said, I want to prioritize stuff, fair enough. But I have yet to meet anyone who has said that.
I always wonder that because it always does come down to something else. Like if you're buying something, is it to fill a need or because you're happy or you feel sad? Are you buying this to make yourself feel better? Do you get the treat? Or if someone like is hoarding, like what's the reason behind it? Or
Mhm.
if someone's holding on to something, is there a guilt for getting rid of it? Like I sometimes hold on to things because I feel really bad about throwing it in the trash, knowing it's going to live in a landfill forever. So
Mhm.
I do agree that there is a bigger reason behind it. Sometimes you'll have to dig deep to get it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think even when I look at my own habits and, I identify as a minimalist, even though I'm a mom and have a business and all of the things. But at the same time, I'm still guilty of, getting restless and going shopping to scratch that itch, or feeling sad or lonely at night and finding myself surfing online for a purse or a new pair of jeans. So I think, in the Western world, we are in such a consumer forward culture, and we are told constantly that more is better, more is going to make us happier, more is the answer to most of our problems. And I can say, having spent an entire career helping people get organized and declutter, I have found that to be the opposite. That typically, the more we accumulate, the more overwhelmed we are, the more stressed we are, the more debt we take on, the more overwhelm. And who wants to be more overloaded and overwhelmed? So I have really found that the solution tends to lie in questioning those choices and pausing and taking a beat before we add to cart. And really asking ourselves, what is the real need here? What is the greater desire, or what's the thing I'm trying to fill?
So as you've alluded to, the minimalist approach isn't just about less stuff. It's a mindset. So
Mhm.
what's one habit or ritual you personally practice to maintain that sense of clarity and focus? Because I know it's like you mentioned having kids, or just in your there's spots in your house that accumulate stuff and you
Yeah.
don't know what to do with it. You're like, I shouldn't throw this away, or I might need this one day. So what are some of the habits that you implement every day to help maintain the minimalist lifestyle?
Yeah. So it's a combination of, I guess, minimalism and organization. So, in terms of minimalism, I have these kind of boundaries and guardrails in place. So, if I buy something new and I'm bringing something new into my home, I just have this deal with myself that something similar has to go. Because after all these years of editing and organizing, my family home, which is so busy and can be so chaotic, I really have reached a place that feels good to all of us. And so we kind of have this rule, like, if you want to buy a new backpack, an old backpack has to go. If you want to buy a new, beautiful vase, an old vase has to go. So that's just a really simple habit that I find most people just keep buying and buying and accumulating without having anything exiting their home. So I do have that one in, one out strategy. But in terms of just like the daily flow of life, it's these really simple habits and practices. Like, when I come into the house, no matter how tired or overwhelmed I am, I take 2 minutes to put the things that I'm carrying away. And so, organizers like to say, don't put it down, put it away. It typically takes the same amount of time. So that means hanging up the coat, putting my shoes in the shoe basket, tossing the mail and magazines in the basket where we keep our mail, and just getting everything taken care of in the moment. And the other thing I do is just a 5-minute reset before bed. So, I work from home. I'm sitting at my dining room table recording this right now. In a few hours, my kids are going to come home and they're going to have backpacks and homework and want snacks. And so, resetting my space is something I do throughout the day. But really, it typically takes like 2 minutes to close my laptop, put it in a cabinet, wipe down the table so it's ready for the next activity.
I definitely agree with the putting something away, don't just put it down, because when you just put it down, you're going to touch it again. And I listen to like the organization podcast, the clutter podcast, all of that.
Mhm.
And, they say like, don't touch it twice.
Right.
Just you
Yes.
touch it, you're carrying it once, put it away, you touch it once, instead of if you put it down somewhere, you then have to touch it twice, which is a very simple way to think about it. And you also don't realize how heavy that stuff gets when it's always there, when you see it. Even if it's not necessarily in the way, it's there,
Mhm.
and it's on your mind, and it's like in the back of your mind, it's like your brain's going, this doesn't belong here, like
Yes.
get rid of it. And even if you leave it there forever and ever, once you do get rid of it, it's like, whew, like it almost like you can breathe for a second.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the cost of clutter for people is this huge mental load. I think even if you feel like you're a person who doesn't care that much about clutter or organization, what happens in the brain is that it feels like there's constantly unfinished business. There's, all of these items your brain has to process being in a room. What are they? Where do they go? Why are they here? Why did I buy them? So I found, the less visual clutter you can have in your environment, the more kind of at peace your brain can be and the more available it is to process other information.
What about if someone's like an out of sight, out of mind type of person? Like, what
Mm,
if this, paper comes home and I know I'm going to need it in 3 weeks or something like that, anything. Or
yeah.
a coupon comes in the mail and, oh, I really wanted to try this restaurant and go to the store. Let me pin it on the cork board or something like that. Where it's like, if you were to just stick it somewhere, you're never going to see it again. You're going to completely forget about it. So,
Yeah.
how do people that are out of sight, out of mind types handle cleaning up after themselves, essentially?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's such an important question. And so many people are like that, by the way, out of sight, out of mind. So, I mean, my biggest organizing hack, I think, for people in general is having one designated action basket or bin. So in my home, I have one big oversized basket. Any paper, coupon, school form, anything that requires my attention gets put in that basket. So even if it's not organized or filed or color coded, I know if I need it, if it's something important, it's in this basket. And the part two of that is I review the basket once a week on Sunday. So before I kind of dive into my busy week, I'm going through, I'm saying, do I need to pay this bill? Do I need to RSVP for this party? So the key is, I find being in people's homes, there tends to be paper and to-dos kind of littered and strewn everywhere in all rooms, all surfaces. And that is so overwhelming for people and difficult to manage. So if you do just one thing, create one centralized vessel. It can literally just be a big basket or bin or tote bag, something open. And anything that requires your attention that you don't have time to deal with, put it in that one place. We have one for our entire family. So my kids know if they have something for me to sign or they need help with something, they put it in that action basket and they know I review it once or twice a week. If they come to me in the middle of my day, waving a form, I will say, not now, put it in the basket. And so it's just kind of this shorthand for all of us. Like if it's important and requires attention, we know it's going to be in this one place. It can never get lost.
I'm going to ask some questions selfishly right now for
Great.
myself because
Okay.
I just these are some of the things in my household that have been driving me crazy, and I have no idea how to handle it. I have 4 children. My 5-year-old is very attached to her stuff. We have toys, left over from my older 2 kids. And, she now thinks they're her toys, which they are, but they've been passed down to her. And we did not follow the one thing in, one thing out rule, right?
Sure.
So the toys are just everywhere. And I try to get rid of stuff. And now I'm resorting to doing it when she's in school. But
Okay.
I just got rid of 2 toys today, took them to my neighbor's house. But how do we teach our kids that? Because it's like, if I'm taking away a toy, not taking away, if I'm looking to remove it, give it to someone else that's going to enjoy it. They haven't used it in months. It's my favorite thing. How dare you get rid of it?
Yeah.
How do we teach our kids to make room for more stuff? I mean, I even tried every toy you get rid of, Santa's going to bring you one to replace it. Nothing worked.
Nothing works.
I
Okay.
tried
Yeah.
a lot. So how do we train our children to think this way?
Yeah. So, I mean, they may not think this way. My kids certainly were not minimalists when they were born, and they still aren't. They still would say, Mom, you're such a minimalist. We're not all like that. We don't all think the same way. I think the key is as parents that it's our job to create clear boundaries and structure for our kids and then give them the creative license within those boundaries. So when I had, a toddler and a 4-year old, and it felt like there was just so much stuff and so much gear, and it's overwhelming as a parent and it's overwhelming for the kids too. Um, I came up with this rule. It was somewhat arbitrary, but it really worked, that we can only have 5 types of toys out. And so that for me meant buying like 5 big floor baskets. And we don't have a playroom. We live in a very small, very old home with almost no storage. And so we had to really have these limits, even though our kids wanted everything. They wanted to consume everything. They wanted all the toys that their friends had. I would say we have enough room in our home for 5 different types of things. You guys get to decide what those things are. So maybe at one point it was Legos, it was a play kitchen and play food, it was dolls, it was balls, you get the picture. The idea is I'm saying here's the framework and here's kind of the physical footprint, but you get to decide what goes into it or what we invest to put into it. And I have found this rule of 5 has been kind of magical for my clients as well. And even for people with bigger homes or more things, having no more than 5 categories of stuff out, and even making like a toy lending library where you have the rest in a storage closet or a basement or a garage. You just don't want to have that much stimulation out for your kids or for you to have to manage. The other like little parenting hack is every time, your kid says to you, like, I want X toy, you can just say, great, I'm going to put it down on your wish list for, your birthday or Christmas, whatever upcoming thing is. I find if it's registered, instead of saying, no, you can't have that, it's like, great, I'm going to write that down. Tell me exactly what you want and what color and what size and all of the things. And then you as a parent, on the next big holiday or birthday can make the decision to then surprise them with that thing, but you're not just in a constant buying, accumulating cycle where there's no limits.
So for someone that's feeling completely overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, 5 of something, like I
Yeah.
have 25 of something, like how do we start? Because like that might
Yeah.
be like an extreme, like that might be like
Yeah.
a complete 180 from where they are right now. So what
Totally.
are some like baby steps that someone can take to get to gain more control over the stuff or over the clutter, or lean more minimalist?
Absolutely. So, number one is you need to identify a person or a place that feels really good to you to donate to. I find that this actually stops so many people who feel ready to declutter or to have less, but they just don't know where to go or what to do. So, starting with even like 15 minutes of research of where are my local, consignment stores or nonprofits that take donations or charity shops, or your school or your church, but some place that feels good to you. Sometimes it's identifying a person who maybe lost things or doesn't have as much as you that could really benefit from some of the things you're ready to get rid of. So number one is just doing that research. Where in my local community, I know for me, when my kids were really young, I asked their preschool, like, we have an excess of games and puzzles. Could you use them? And they were thrilled. They were like, we would love to have new things. And so then I would say to my kids, like, hey, we have too much, but we can bring it to your preschool. You can play with it with your friends. So that was kind of a little baby step. So number one is just identifying what would feel good to me in my local community. What resources do I have that are easy? Number two is really simple, but I just find having a vessel for donations in your home in a convenient place. So maybe that's like hanging a tote bag by your front door in your entry, or having one bin in your home that says donations. And so as you're going about your day, if you notice something like your kid's grown out of a toy, they're no longer interested, or they've grown out of a hoodie or a jacket, you now have a place to toss it. And then when that is full, you have your place that you can donate to, you're done. For many people, it's just the decision fatigue is so overwhelming with decluttering. It's like, what am I doing with this? Where am I going with it? Is it going to be in the landfill? So those basic steps. And then I think more broader and kind of foundationally is thinking about your values. How do I want to live? What's important to me in my life? In our home, we love entertaining. We love having sleepovers for our friends and parties. And so I've kind of explained to them, like, if our home is teeming with stuff and we have to clean and organize all the time, that actually means less fun and less freedom. So now my kids, my little ones, are teenagers. And so they're in a totally different mindset where they just want to have their friends over and they want to hang out and they want to have slumber parties. And they know that when our home is minimal and organized, they can do all of those things. So it's also kind of connecting decluttering to something that's actually fun and values based. So it doesn't just feel like a chore.
Right. Like you want to have your friends over. I say this all the time. You want to have your friends over, you have to clean your room, and it
Right.
could take 5 minutes or it could take
Mm-hmm.
35 minutes, right?
Yeah.
That's up to you how long it takes because it's your mess, but you know what's expected. The floor to be clean, your bed, cleared off, your bed to be made, all of that stuff. And when you have less stuff, it's less to
Yeah.
clean up and it
Exactly.
makes life a lot easier.
Yes,
Yes.
it is simple math, right? I mean, the more we have, the more we have to clean and organize and maintain and eventually dispose of. So the less we have, I think the more fun we can have, the more time and spaciousness we can have. Um, and with regard to kids, I also really think getting them involved in the process and giving them choice, like saying, we have too many things, we can't keep track of them. So I want you to show me your favorites. So instead of focusing on what do you want to get rid of, which most kids will say nothing, what are your favorite things that you want to play with now? Let's pull them all out and let's make sure they're in a place you can grab them and play with them super easily. And then maybe it's the baby step is not, we're going to get rid of the other stuff, but we're going to package it up and we're going to put it in the garage and we'll rotate out when you get bored of the other stuff. And then you can see maybe they forget about all that stuff and don't care about it anyway when it's time to swap.
In your best-selling book, Minimalista, you mention the hidden costs of clutter. So can you share how organizing actually creates financial abundance beyond just saving money on not buying stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, being a minimalist has made my life abundant in so many ways. I travel more, I have more space and time to do the things that I enjoy, like reading or going to movies or, entertaining, hosting people, hanging out with friends. I think time scarcity is something we all struggle with, right? Time is the only resource we can't create more of. We can create more money, but we can't really create more time. There's only so many hours in the day. And what I have found is that by owning less stuff, I have more time. I have gained hours back in my day because I spend so much less time managing this stuff. So it really it 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 leads to an abundance of time, spaciousness, and freedom that nothing else I've tried has been as effective as simply owning less stuff. And I like to say, owning less stuff is something that's available to all of us. It's free. You might even make money offloading some of your stuff or selling some of your stuff. And it really is the gateway to freedom. That's how I think about it.
Speaking of making money, getting rid of your stuff, how often do you see someone saying, well, I have all this stuff and I want to start selling it on Facebook Marketplace or what have you?
Yeah.
And they get so consumed with that that
Hmm.
they end up not getting rid of anything
Yeah.
because it's like, well, I want to sell that. I want to make some money off of it. And then it's not as if Facebook Marketplace has a quick turnaround. It's like people
Right.
are messaging you, you need to arrange
Hmm.
the pickup, all of that stuff. So it could be like 3 weeks before the stuff actually leaves your house. So what do you say to someone that's like super focused on, well, I want to make money off of my stuff, versus just, get rid of it and cut your losses?
Yeah. I know it's so common. And I think, I've almost never not met someone who wants to do that, because there is that sunken cost theory of like, I spent all the money on the thing, I want to at least recover some. The reality is that typically people don't value your stuff the way that you do. It's just like that thing, like once you buy a car and drive it off the lot, it depreciates instantly. And so I think it's a time money calculus. Like, do you have more time in your life right now where even if you're just recovering a very small percentage of what you bought the thing for, it's worth it? Or is time scarce and you just want to have more time and offload and be done? So it's different for each person, right? Like when I was younger, I had much more time before I had kids, and it would be worth it to me to post something where maybe I could make $50 back. At this point in my career, I'm so busy and I can make money other ways that I find I just would rather bundle everything up, drop it off, and know someone's going to be delighted by getting something that's really nice. I think more often than not, that is my advice for people: is think about cultivating generosity and saying, yes, I did spend money on this, but it's not creating value in my life. And it could create a lot of value for someone else. And it could also reduce the headache and the number of things on my to-do list by not having to deal with it.
My oldest daughter, her name is Olivia, and she's 14, and she's very much the sell my stuff to make the money back. And it's like, well, it wasn't even your money to begin with. But okay,
Right.
fine. So her room's getting redone right now, and she had like this little, I bought it for her before she was even born, and it just is a little peg with her name on it. And so she's like, will you sell this? And I'm like, no, like my time's not worth the $3 that I'm going to ask. Cause she wants like $20 for it. I'm like, it's not worth it. It's
Yeah.
not worth it.
Yeah.
So then I even tried giving it away. My neighborhood has this thing, just a gifting site. So you post what it is, you give it away, and someone gets it. And then even people do gratitude posts, like, thank you so much for this jar or whatever it is. This is
Wow.
how I used it. And it's really nice to see. And I tried giving away her Olivia hook thing, and there's no one named
Nobody
Olivia
wanted
anymore.
it. There were no
No
takers.
one wanted it. I couldn't even give it away. So
Right.
it's just like that. It's just like that once, like, example of sometimes just get rid of it. Like, try to get rid of it. I tried, and then yes, it did end up in my trash can because I tried. I tried for like 3 weeks to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And she was upset with me that I didn't sell it. I'm like, I couldn't even give it away. But at some point you just have to be like, we used it.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it. You had it
Right.
for 14 years. Now we just got to get rid of it. We
It
got to
is
move on.
complete.
Right.
Yeah. And I think like a nice rule of thumb for listeners is putting a deadline. So maybe you have a pile of things that you think, these are worth a certain amount. I might want to try to sell it. I usually give myself a week. So I say, if I haven't listed it and sold it or consigned it within a week, I'm moving on. But at least then I know, like, I can give it a shot and maybe not invest a ton of time in it. But if it's easy, low hanging fruit and I want to get some money, why not? So, when I'm organizing, I'll actually put a Post-it on a pile and say, like, must be dealt with by, May 1st. And so then that can give your brain that sense of like, all right, we're going to try to do the thing, but we do have a hard out.
I think that's good. And then it also allows you to not feel bad if
Yeah.
you didn't get there, because it's like, well, I'm going to leave this post up for 3 months, and then the thing's sitting there, right?
Yeah.
It's sitting by
Yeah.
your door, what have you. It's a constant reminder, whether you realize it or not, of something's there, it's out of place, it shouldn't be there. You're trying to get rid of it, you're failing at getting rid of it. And it's
Yes.
like this whole like
Yeah.
cycle of just like unnecessary emotions or thoughts entering your head. So by putting the deadline on it, it just gives yourself the permission of, I tried, and then that's it. Like, time to move on.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're reducing both then the mental clutter and the physical clutter. So it's a double win.
Absolutely. What's the most surprising connection you've observed between an organized home and financial confidence?
Mm. Ooh, I love that question. I think that when people have an organized home, they overall feel more confident. Their self esteem rises. They feel more in control. There is a real correlation with an organized home and financial abundance, because people stop losing things. And there's a lot of overbuying simply because you can't find or you don't realize you have something, especially in the pantry and the closet, by the way. So I see people just buying and buying and buying because they don't realize they already have all these things. They're just buried, right? So there's, financial wins there just in terms of, when you know what you have, you consume less. Um, there's also just the organization of when you feel organized and in control in your physical space. I find people stop losing track of their bills, right? And so they're not having to pay penalties for missing bills or deadlines, or credit card debt also diminishes for people who are really organized, because you're just on top of your life in a different way, right? You just feel this sense of clarity and control that is really difficult to feel when you're feel like you're drowning in clutter and disorganization.
It's kind of like the clean car effect. Whenever you
Mm,
go and you wash your car and you vacuum it and you spend a good amount of time and you clean it and you do a really good job, I feel like your shoulders are back a little bit more. Like you're
yes.
a little bit prouder, you're in a better mood, you just feel better getting in and out of a clean car versus a disaster of a car.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like that's your house is just that 24/7. I mean, if you feel like your house is a mess or things are disorganized, or it doesn't even have to be messy, it could just be a lot of stuff.
Mm.
It just weighs down on you. So by clearing some of it out, it just helps your shoulders go back a little bit and feel a little bit more confident and better about yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's also a correlation between health and wellness and clutter. So when people have a tidy, organized home, they eat better. They make better decisions about what they're putting in their body. So I think it's just, you see it across the board, just this intentionality and kind of a ripple effect of when you're more thoughtful and intentional about how you care for your home, you're more thoughtful about your finances, you're more thoughtful about what you put into your body. It's a really positive domino effect. Oh, I think you just muted.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
So, for someone listening right now who feels overwhelmed by both their physical and financial clutter, what's one single life edit they could create that could hold on, let me repeat that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for someone listening right now who feels overwhelmed by both the physical and financial clutter, what's a single life edit they can implement right now for the most immediate sense of control?
Mm. Um, I would say making the decision of what you want more of in your life and what you want less of, and then setting up one simple system like the inbox we mentioned to centralize all of your action items and to-dos, or as simple as hanging a tote in your entryway that's a place where you can put donations. But setting up one simple system that's going to make your life easier immediately, I think is the inbox and the donation center.